Hi, Y10. Okay, let's just recap on everything. This is the video for the week starting the 15th of June. We've done some consolidation in previous weeks, but I really want you to now use this week to catch up and make sure you've got everything up to date. The first thing I'm going to refer to, quite simply, is the fact that up to the 11th of May, any work you were set is described in great detail in a video that I made for the 11th of May. So look back at that session, watch that video in detail, stop it, pause it, go away, look at the PowerPoints, look at the documents, and then you can make sure everything's up to date and you understand what you're doing. Right, so from the 11th of May then, the week later was the 18th. Now what you had to do that week was we had to look back over or look over the river inquiry that we were doing and consider how we might evaluate it. Now that's very difficult if we haven't done the actual visit yet. You would have gone a month ago had the COVID stuff not all appeared. Right, so this week then, the 18th, you were to look at the handouts and look at pages 220 to 221, read through them, and then start asking yourself the questions. How could you assess what went well, what didn't go so well, what the quality of your results and measurements were? Were there factors that got in the way of the accuracy or the reliability of those results? Do you trust your results? And what could be used to make it better? Now, as I said, before you go, that's quite a difficult task. But if you think, what went well? What could get in the way of what you're doing? If you go and you've got a day booked and you go, I don't know, let's say we go on the 6th of September. If we go there and it's pouring with rain, it has been for a week and the rivers are pretty flooded. Number one, it becomes dangerous. You did your risk assessment, so it's not a great idea to go in those rivers, or you've got to be a little bit more careful collecting your results. The river height is going to be higher than you would expect. The velocity of the river is going to be much more than you would expect. So the actual time you go could be the problem. It could be following rain. It could be following drought. Have you got too many of you in the river? Are you affecting the flow by all standing in the river? You might be taking measurements of something like a cork floating along the top. But if you've got other people blocking the flow of the water, is that going to help or hinder? Okay, so start thinking along the way you can ask yourself questions following our visit. What could have made it better? What could have made it more accurate? And of course, you've answered before, but to get around that idea that you go on a day and it's flooded, then you've got to go much more often, and you've got to collect those results for a much longer period of time to end up with an average measurement. So something you can trust in. Right, you're then asked to go to page 221 of your handout, and at the bottom of page 221, you have the section called Your Questions. You were asked to answer all those questions, and when you got to the one that asks you to draw figure 2, then basically find that in the book and just copy it. Figure 2 is the examples of quantitative data used in urban investigations. So you need that chart, so you've got an idea of the things that are quantitative, the measurable things. Okay. When you get to question 4, it's a little difficult. This one's based on the River Where, but I want you to do a really generic answer based on the River Why, and you need to focus on those human and physical causes of flooding. So think about urbanisation, deforestation, think about the shape of the land, think about the actual geology of the area. Is the rock permeable or impermeable, etc., etc.? Okay. You then went on to the second lesson, and this was the introduction to the urban inquiry. Now, we're going to go to Milton Keynes. Hopefully, we'll do the river on one day and we'll do Milton Keynes the next, so keep it all together. Now, basically, I want you to read through the documents you were given, refer to the handout pages 222 to 223. Okay, and we have to look, the exam boards say we have to look at the difference in quality of life in urban regions. So in other words, Different parts of cities and different parts of towns have a different quality of life. Okay, I'm sure that if you referred to Dunstable, you referred to Luton or any area you would know there are some areas that you would probably say, I'd rather live there than others. But start thinking why that is. Okay, we were reintroduced to the Burgess model. You remember the concentric targets of CBD, inner city, suburbs, rural urban fringe. So start thinking about that again. Just refresh yourselves with Burgess, make sure you understand it. And then we need a good starting point. If we're talking about the differences between quality of life, are we going to base our question on the Burgess model? Are we going to look at CBD, inner city, etc.? Or are we going to go a little bit more, let's just talk about quality of life. Let's look at things that we would expect to make the quality of life good. Now, ideally, folks, you want to combine that. You want a combination of the two. So we want to look at different land use areas of a city on that concentric Burgess model, but we also want to look at quality of life, things we can measure to say whether it's good or bad. What we've come up with is a generic question in the past. The question we use for Milton Keynes is, does the quality of life improve the further from the centre of MK we are? Okay, if you can come up with any other questions, fantastic. What we do is we take the map of MK, and if you look on the work for the week starting the 18th of May, you'll see a circular diagram of Milton Keynes, and I've drawn a line that runs from the centre out to the east of the town. Okay, and what we go is we go from the CBD in the centre, we go out through Springfield, an inner city estate. We go through a suburb, which is MK Village, okay, which was the original village which was there before the city was built. Then we come to pretty much outer suburb, getting near the urban rural fringe of Broughton. And then we go out of Milton Keynes, definitely to urban rural fringe, to Malzo, which is a village outside. That line we draw, which separates something, the same as maths, is called a transect. And it's a good way to do a study, because you're following a line and you are ensuring that you're going from centre to outside. So we are doing a direct further from the centre we travel route. Think what sort of quantitative data, countable data, and what sort of qualitative data, which is judgments made possibly by you, we could measure for quality of life. Also think what sort of secondary sources could we use for this. Okay. Then you were given a task. You were asked to divide a page in two. Remember, I've told you to pause this video and do it as I say if you're not up to date. Divide a page in two with one column down the centre, or two columns, one line down the centre. On one side, write qualitative, and on the other side, write quantitative. And then think about all those things that you think are measurable, the things that you would like if you were going for quality of life. Now, let's think of a couple examples. As far as quantitative is concerned, we could do counting traffic, so congestion, noise, pollution in the centre. For qualitative, we could possibly look at signs of rubbish, signs of general repair of the houses. So try and list them all and put them in those columns. Think secondary data now. Now, typical things that would come to mind are, like I said, general repair, what condition the area is like, is there litter, okay? Are there cars that are generally older number plates, or are they very modern cars with new number plates? Is the place generally looked after? Are the gardens in a good state? Are they mown? Are there flower beds? Or is it not looked after? Okay, think education, think Ofsted reports. We'll come to those in a moment, but I wonder if living in certain areas steers you to certain schools which possibly hinder or increase your chances of getting better grades. Also, crime. If I said to you, place X has a very high crime rate, perhaps you'd think about moving there. You think, perhaps I'd go to Y, which has got a lower crime rate. Okay, right, so the day then. On the day, we will arrive, we will actually start in Malzo, the village on the outside of Milton Keynes. It's a busy road, we're very careful, we stay well away from the side of the road, big verges between us, but we travel along. We will have various documents to fill in, and some of them are quantitative and some of them are qualitative. We'll look at cars, we'll actually look at the age of the cars. We'll count the cars going past. Is it a very busy road? Is it noisy? Is there a lot of pollution? We'll look at the general repair of the houses. What sort of houses are they? Are there apartments, flats, or are they big detached houses, 4 or 5 bedrooms with double garages, etc.? We'll look at the actual state of the area. Is there a lot of litter? Is it in general disrepair? We'll do that in Malzo, and then we'll travel in. We'll cross the actual outside of the city border, and we're going to Broughton, which is the very outer suburb. We'll do the same there, and we'll walk across the bridge, across all the main roads, across the bridges, and we'll go to Milton Keynes Village. Excuse me. Very pretty, but we'll do the same there. We'll jump back on the coach. We'll travel to Springfield. Bart Simpson won't be there, I'm afraid, but we'll travel to Springfield, we'll walk around Springfield and do exactly the same. Then we will go down and very close to Escape in Milton Keynes, we'll park again and we'll walk around the housing area right next to the CBD, next to the shopping centre, and we'll do the same measures again, okay? Horrifically that day, we tend to end up in Escape and possibly in Nando's for lunch before we come home, so it's a pretty rotten end to the day, okay? Tasks-wise, after that, I asked you to copy the diagram that I've done of Milton Keynes with the transect, okay? And then the big thing is to go away and start looking at all these sources of secondary data. Now, I said to you, or I introduced you to a thing called the index of multiple deprivation. Now, that's got lots of different measures on it that all give a certain score and come out as a final figure. So look up index of multiple deprivation, IMD, then look up that for Milton Keynes and see what you can find. Search crime rates in Milton Keynes, see what you come up with. See if it breaks it down, okay? You will need to go to the Ofsted website. Now, first of all, you'll need to research which schools the children living in the centre of Milton Keynes go to, which schools do the kids living in Springfield go to, Broughton, Milton Keynes Village and Malzo. Do they all go to different schools? Then you need to go to the Ofsted website, look at those schools and see what sort of rating they got on their last Ofsted. It will come out with ratings of require improvement, good, outstanding. What are they? Do kids living in certain areas of Milton Keynes have a better chance by going to better schools? Then you could also look at census data. Now the census is completed every year with a 1 in it. So ends in a 1. So in other words, the next census is actually coming up in next year, 21. The last one was 2011. So you could argue, it's 9 years out of date. But that will give you lots of information about the types of employment that people do in the areas that live in those areas that we're studying. Give you a good idea. Okay. Sorry about turning the pages, but just keep up to date. On the 1st of June, you were asked, or you were given handouts 224 to 225. You were asked to read through them, okay? It simply said, please explain the differences between qualitative and quantitative data. So you'd write qualitative is this, quantitative is that. Keep pausing, doing and carrying on. Then you were asked to copy table 2 on page 225. Table 2 is this one, down here. Okay, my dog's just come in to say hello to me. And you copy that in situ, and that is about quantitative data. It just gives you some information. The second lesson, you were asked to also look at handout pages 224 to 225, and that refers to primary data, what you're collecting in the field. And it asks you this time to copy this chart on page 225, and this chart is qualitative data. Now, once you've copied that, just leave it blank, because that we will actually do on the day of our visit. You're then asked to go to the revision workbook on page 71, which is a UK city in context. I want you to answer in your revision workbook. Go to page 129 to answer it, purple pen it, highlight any keywords and phrases you didn't know. Okay, lesson 3. You're asked to read through your old notes that you did on London when we did that recently in the evolving human landscape of the UK. Then you're going to page 72 of your revision workbook and you're completing the questions on urban change differences. Then 73 and completing the questions on city challenges and opportunities. And finally, page 74, urban change differences. I want you to answer all of those. Go to the back of the book, page 129, 130, purple pen, highlight keywords and phrases that you don't understand. Right, so you're doing all this starting from the 15th of June with a big catch up. Pause, play this video and make sure you've got everything up to date. If you missed anything from the week starting or before the 11th of May, watch the video on the 11th of May and go through it in the same way. Right, for the rest of this week, 15th of June, we said about index of multiple deprivation, we said about crime rates, we said about the census material, we've said about Ofsted and school reports. I want you to spend the rest of this week looking at the CBD, the central area of Milton Keynes, looking at Springfield Estate, looking at the Broughton Estate, looking at Central Milton Keynes Village, or Milton Keynes Village as it's called, and to look at Malzo, and to go through IMD, crime rates, facilities and resources, that's shops, sports centres, pubs. Is it green? Are there parks? Are there play areas for the kids? All right, go through it all. And what you'll need to do is preferably do it in columns. At the top of the columns, put the 5 areas we're visiting, and then down the side, rows going across have IMD, have crime rate, have schools, have facilities. So you end up with this database that you produce on each of the 5 areas that we're going to visit. That's your secondary data that will support what you'll look at in the field when we visit. Please, folks, there's a lot of work to be done. Pause and play, get it up to date. I'm going to give you the rest of this week to make sure you are up to date with everything we've done. And then where a lot of you have actually done IMD and everything for MK, let's start splitting it up into the five areas to show they're different and what we find for those 5 areas. Get everything up to date. If you've got any issues at all, contact me on mcronin@priorityacademy.co.uk with any question at all. When it comes to handing your work in, go to OneDrive, go to Y10, go to Hand In, go to Geography and upload it. Anyone that's given their work in, I annotate it and get it back to you very quickly. So please, let me see your work, okay? Use this time. No good turning around in a few weeks' time saying, oh, I didn't get it done, it was too much. There's plenty of time being given to you here. So get it up to date, folks. Stay safe. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.